What's up, everybody? You're listening to the Hustle and Flowchart podcast with your boys, Matt Wolfe and Joe Fier.
So the strategy that I'm using to build my podcast that is also resulting in better downloads for me, I can like the 3 episodes that I'm running ads to are the best episodes, and they continue to be the best episodes. And they're just, it's beautiful because it's magically bringing me listeners. I love it. So what we do is we create, you know how you create your show notes page? It's a page that's on your website. So you have to have a page on your website with your pixel on. And what I do is you have right at the top, you'll have the name of the podcast, of course, and maybe a benefit of why people should listen. Because remember, you got to pull them in immediately. You got to give them a reason to listen straight off the bat. And then we have the little link to the audio where they can listen. So they can listen right there after clicking. Because imagine you're standing in line in the bank, or you're sitting on the couch scrolling through. We got to make it easy for them. We don't want them to go and subscribe and do this and do that and do the other thing. Click, listen, easy. So you've got the little listening button. You guys will know what the technical term is for that little thingamajiggy with the listening button.
Player.
There's the
technical. I don't know. We don't have a technical term for it.
Yeah, it's above my pay grade. And then right below that, you have a subscribe button, right? So those who, even if they just listen, maybe they listen just for a few seconds, and then they're going to click subscribe, and they're going to be taken to your Apple or your wherever you host your podcast. And then below that, we have a list of, like you would have show notes. Again, here's the amazing thing that you'll learn at this timestamp. Here's the other amazing thing you'll learn at this timestamp. And here's the other amazing things you'll learn at this timestamp. So we have that there. And then another subscribe here. And then you might have the transcription if you want, or, something else. And then you might also on that page have a opportunity for them to join your email lists. You give them some kind of a free lead magnet that is related to the podcast episode, because they clicked because they're interested in the podcast content. So make it related. It's not just your stock standard thing. It's something that's related to that. So that's kind of how we build the page. And then we run traffic landing page view ads to this. So then you would create an ad, and you would, in the copy of the ad, you explain the benefits of listening to the podcast episode. And it's a click here to listen now. And they click and they go to this landing page where they can immediately listen, where they can subscribe, and where they get captured into a custom audience of people who have been there. And so you can, you can create retargeting ads for people who went to that page but didn't opt in for your free thing, and you retarget them with your free thing. So they're in your ecosystem as soon as they've clicked there. And miraculously, what we've seen is it grows the listenership on those episodes. And don't ask me how, because we can't directly, Facebook doesn't directly tell us how many people have subscribed to the podcast as a result of this. The only stat we have in Facebook is how many people clicked to go to the landing page. Your ad is on target if you're paying somewhere between $1 and $1.50 to get someone onto your landing page, which sounds expensive. But if you just, you put literally, we run them low dollar budgets. I think I'm running some for like $3, and I just switch it on and set it and forget it. And then when I go in and I look, I'm like, holy cow, these podcast episodes are the top performing podcast episodes, and people are clicking on my ads. So they must be then listening. It's working. It's working.
Yeah. So you said those are ads in Facebook that are traffic landing page type ads then.
Yes. So you optimize the traffic, and then at ad set level, where you choose the type of traffic, you get to choose between clicks or landing page views. You choose landing page views because you want people to not just click, you want them to go to the page. You actually want them to listen, or read about it. and then make sure that you set up that custom audience of people who did click to that landing page, because that's going to be another useful audience for you to retarget with your lead magnet, or with a second episode of your podcast, or with a video, or with a something. Because now they're, you know, if you're being strategic about how you build, I talk about the golden thread, like if you take them on a purposeful journey where your messaging starts with value, some kind of, you know, maybe you have an engagement ad that touches on the topic of your podcast. Everyone who engages with that then gets sent the podcast episode ad, you know, and then they get sent a lead magnet. By the time they move down your funnel, by the time they're on your email list or get to your evergreen low dollar offer, like they're ready to buy.
This is super cool. Is there a way, like, do you have a process of selecting which podcast you promote, which podcast episode, or is it just kind of at random?
I just choose the best ones. I would also be strategic about, you know, what phase of your launch are you in. So when we launch online courses, you know, there's the pre-launch runway phase where you're kind of 3 months out from launching your course, and your messaging starts, you know, fine tuning. So you know, when I'm launching a course about list building or audience building, my podcast episode starts aligning with audience building and list building. The lead magnet I'm running is related to audience building or list building. But when I'm launching a course about launching, then the content switches a little bit, the conversation switches a little bit. So it may depend on which of your funnels you are purposefully trying to build at that time. You're purposefully trying to warm people up and bring them in at the top, so that once you say, well, my masterclass is now open, you know, go grab your seat, you have a nice big warm audience of people who have listened to the podcast episodes, maybe multiple podcast episodes related to that piece of, you know, that problem that you solve. And they've watched your engagement videos, and they've engaged with you on Facebook, and they've joined you live, and they, you know, it's just, you want to build that conversation. So be purposefully with something you're going to sell in mind, because we can build audiences all day, but if we don't, you know, you got to start with the end in mind, and the end is you're going to pay me for my knowledge.
Yeah. No, it's perfect. That's great. And I'm happy you said that, because it's easy to then figure out, okay, well, you know, like we have an affiliate marketing tool stack episode that was very popular, but we also have a lead opt-in that's custom to that, you know, that basically gives it away for free. And then that triggers all sorts of fun stuff afterwards. So
all sorts of fun stuff. You reverse engineer that, and create then run the podcast episode, and then create some engagement content for that, and you've built a funnel.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of putting all this together, like you could kind of combine the strategies you're talking about here too, where you maybe pull like a 5-minute clip from a podcast episode that's really a good takeaway from that episode, run that to a cold audience, make it a pure engagement ad. Then when people trickle down from that engagement ad, that's where you're doing these landing page optimizations over to your show notes. So if somebody just watched, a clip from this episode right here that we're doing right now, and it's a 5-minute clip that they really like, well, anybody who watched past, let's say 25%, now we're linking them over to where they can go and click and listen to the full episode on our show notes page.
Yeah. And you can even grab a quote.
Nice little tie together.
Yeah, you grab a quote from this, you stick it on an image, you run that as an engagement post, and then you run the video as a video views ad. Now you're getting both those optimizations. You're getting engagement and you're getting video views. You have a video views custom audience, so anyone who watches the video is getting captured. You have an engagement audience. Anyone who engages is getting captured. Then you retarget them with the podcast, and you have purposefully put that podcast in front of people who've already self-selected that this is something, they've already raised their hand and said, I'm interested in this. I like this. I want more of this.